And thanks to our friends on the 5. Welcome to Hannity. This is a Fox News alert. We are now witnessing the collapse of the liberal mainstream media right here in America. Cheryl Atkinson, Geraldo Rivera will have reaction tonight. Also, Sarah Carter will join us. An explosive new report about the interim FBI director. But first, CNN leading the way in the rampant decay of the liberal mainstream media. And tonight, I have a message for CNN's president, Jeff Zucker. That's tonight's opening monologue, Jeff. All right, history is literally happening right in front of our eyes. We have the liberal destroy Trump. Mainstream media is now in a free fall and on the brink of complete and total collapse. That's not an overstatement. It's not hyperbole. Now, these propagandists and champions of fake news continue to be exposed day after day, and CNN is leading the way. Now, I'm going to share my advice for the head of CNN, their chief of fake news and propaganda news, Jeff Zucker, in just a minute. Jeff, I'm trying to save your career. But first, let me explain how one of the biggest anti-Trump networks has lost all their credibility and can no longer be trusted by you, the American people. Now, at this point, we should put CNN 6 feet, you see right there, underground for repeatedly spreading lies, propaganda, black helicopter, tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, and for viciously trying to take down this president. Now, let's just look at some of the network's many controversies and scandals they've had. Now, there's the image of CNN's former New Year's Eve co-host. Really, it's so graphic. Every time we show you, we have to put a warning on the screen. Kathy Griffin, posing like an ISIS fighter. Look at how despicable that is, with a bloody, severed head of a Trump lookalike. Pretty disgusting. And after that vile photo shoot, CNN then fired Griffin. Fair enough. And earlier this month, CNN cut ties. Remember Reza Aslan? That's the unhinged liberal responsible for disturbing tweets like this one, quote, "This POS," you know what it is not just an embarrassment to America and a stain on the presidency. He's an embarrassment to humankind. Oh, that's fair and balanced. Now, kicking unhinged liberal hosts to the curb is just the beginning of CNN's massive credibility crisis. CNN has been routinely humiliated for pushing their fake news. Remember, earlier this week, 3 so-called journalists allegedly resigned, I don't believe that, after the outlet had to retract a completely made-up story about a Trump ally, a friend of mine, Anthony Scaramucci, which claimed that Anthony was being investigated for colluding with the Russians through dealings with a Russian investment fund. You know, CNN and the rest of the destroy Trump media, they have tried to play it off, oh, it's just an honest mistake, and say that CNN did the right thing. They retracted the story. But according to an explosive report in the New York Post, it appears that CNN may have been forced to correct the fake news hit piece. Take a look at this headline. CNN faced a $100 million lawsuit over botched Russia story. Now, according to the Post, CNN quickly retracted the story. Why? Anthony Scaramucci threatened a massive libel lawsuit. Now, of course, that example is not the only time CNN has gotten a story completely wrong. Let's go back. Let's stay right here in the month of June. June 16th, the network had to delete a tweet and issue a correction for saying, oh, only Democrats were praying before the congressional baseball game. Remember after Steve Scalise was shot in the assassination attempt? And the day before that, well, CNN's senior unhinged White House correspondent, Jim Acosta, he tweeted, then deleted, his ridiculous claim that President Trump didn't visit Congressman Steve Scalise in the hospital. Not true. And also earlier this month, the head of the former FBI director, James Comey, in his testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee, CNN had to alter a report that said that Comey would contradict President Trump's statements about not being under investigation by the FBI. Wrong. The embarrassment for CNN doesn't even end there. Now, take a look at the time CNN covered the president's so-called eating habits. These are really, really hard-hitting investigative reports that really matter to all the Americans in poverty, on food stamps, and out of the labor force, and those that can't buy a house. This matters to them. Take a look.
Apparently, the president gets 2 scoops. You know, everyone else around the table gets 1, and no word if there were sprinkles.
At the dessert course, he gets 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream with his chocolate cream pie instead of the single scoop for everyone else.
Really? That's news at CNN? And there's this ridiculous comment from the network's top news anchor. Watch this.
He's the president of the United States. If he wants to say that, Barack Obama wants to say whatever. If George Bush says, I looked in his eyes
if he
and
took a
thought he
dump
was
on his
great,
desk,
I
you would defend it.
Say it.
Now, such hard-hitting news, which brings us to CNN's political commentator, yes, the one and only Van Jones. Remember, former Obama administration official, constantly smearing and slandering the president. Now, tonight it appears Van Jones may have some explaining to do. Why? James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, has now released a new undercover video. It features Van Jones. In the tape, he appears to admit that there's nothing to back up the left's Russia collusion narrative that has been going on 11 months. Now, Fox hasn't independently verified the contents, but you can see it for yourself. Take a look.
Hey, man.
The Russian thing is just a big nothing, bro.
Really?
And just yesterday, James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, released yet another undercover tape, which apparently shows a CNN producer finally just admitting the truth that the network has a massive anti-Trump agenda. Okay, yeah, we haven't been able to verify, but we have. Take a look. Watch.
You win because you know the game and you play it right. She didn't play it right.
Then why is CNN constantly like Russia this, Russia that?
Because it's ratings.
Because it's ratings?
Our ratings are incredible right now. My boss, a couple days yesterday, we were having a discussion about this dental shoot, and he's like, I just want you to know what we're up against here. And he goes, just to give you some context, President Trump pulled out of the climate accords, and for a day and a half we covered the climate accords, and the CEO of CNN said in our internal meeting, he said, good job everybody covering the climate accords, but we're done with it, let's get back to Russia.
But honestly, you think that whole Russia is just like...
Could be. I mean, it's mostly right now. Like, don't have any big giant proof. But then they say, well, there's still an investigation going on. And you're like, yeah. I don't know. If you were finding something, we'd know about it. The way these leaks happen, they'd leak it. It'd leak. If it was something really good, it would leak.
Whoopsie daisy. Looks like Jones, it looks like CNN President Jeff Zucker have real serious explaining to do. Now, CNN did put out a statement yesterday. They're standing by their producer, which I'm glad. This guy's not going to get fired. They didn't mention anything about Zucker's let's get back to Russia comments. Let's be clear tonight. Zucker is leading all the fake news circus at CNN. And as we said last night, all the blame for what is happening at CNN should be on his shoulders. Now, he's positioned his network to be one of the mainstream media leaders in trying to take down the president, this anti-Trump hate. He needs to be held accountable. And tonight, I'm going to do Jeff Zucker a favor. Hey, Jeff, you want to restore any sense of credibility at your network, you need to stop trying to destroy the presidency of Donald Trump and be on a jihad agenda to attack. And if you're willing to lie and collude to do that, really? Where are your ethics? Instead, here's my advice, Jeff. Start focusing on the 6 massive scandals that should really be investigated but are not being reported by your network. James Comey admitting under oath that he had his friend leak a memo to the New York Times, hoping it would lead to a special counsel. By the way, Jeff, look into the Records Act that might have been violated. That's a felony. And by the way, also there's former Obama Attorney General Loretta Lynch, possibly obstructing justice. How? Interfering in the Clinton email investigation. Now, senators are starting to look into that. Jeff, I suggest that you and your network may want to do some investigative work here. Now, Comey testified that Lynch told him to call the Clinton email investigation, not an investigation, a matter. And he listened. And don't forget the 40-minute tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton just days before Comey let Hillary Clinton off the hook. And then, of course, next is Hillary Clinton's many, many scandals. Jeff, there's a lot of smoke and fire here. And there's now evidence to suggest that the original server investigation was, in fact, compromised. Plus, there's also the Clinton-Russia collusion story. That's the Uranium One deal. We had 20% of America's uranium, the foundational material for nuclear weapons. She signs off a waiver. It goes to Vladimir Putin and Russia. And meanwhile, people involved in the deal are kicking back millions to the Clinton Foundation. Jeff, that's called pay to play. And by the way, destroying or mishandling classified information, Those are both felonies. And by the way, President Obama also has a serious Russia problem. Jeff, you might want to investigate this. Remember, after he learned in August of 2016, Russia was trying to meddle in our presidential election. Why didn't he do anything? Also, look at Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. No matter how you feel about the guy, the only law we know that has been broken in this Russia collusion story is that they surveilled, unmasked, and then leaked intelligence on General Flynn. That's a violation of the Espionage Act. And finally, there's a special counsel. His name is Robert Mueller. Look at the glaring, potentially illegal conflicts of interest here. Mueller's BFF is James Comey. Members of the team that Mueller is hiring have donated to Obama and Clinton. That's called a conflict of interest. And one of the attorneys he's hired actually represented the Clinton Foundation. So, Jeff, these are 6 stories you at CNN, and frankly, all of you in the left-wing Destroy Trump media should actually be covering. Instead of the black helicopter theories, tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, you know what? Maybe it's time to step up, and instead of publishing fake, misleading, flat-out false news, maybe it's time to tell the American people the truth. Do some real reporting. Now, former Governor Palin, she's now suing the New York Times for an op-ed that was published after the shooting of Congressman Scalise. The Times editorial board incorrectly linked Palin's rhetoric to the shooting of Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. Now, the New York Times did later issue a correction, and also today we learned that Vice News had to retract 2 stories about President Trump. This never ends. Here with reaction, the author of the brand new book. It's called The Smear: How Shady, Political, Operatives, Fake News Control What You See, What You Think, and How You Vote. The anchor of Full Measure on the Sinclair Network, Cheryl Atkinson, and Fox News correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera.
We color coordinated.
Why do I expect that right out of your mouth? I mean, forget the important monologue.
That was an excellent monologue, and I thought that it was comprehensive and very powerful. I have 2 minor additions, if I may.
Please.
To me, the real story is an atmosphere of unremitting hostility, and the specificity of your monologue really lays that bare. There is an underlying, whether it's hatred, whatever, there's a mission to destroy the 45th president of the United States. 2 little things happened today that I think are significant. Both got extensive coverage on CNN and the other networks. One was the phone call he placed to the Irish leader, and he's talking to the Irish head of government, and he calls over an Irish reporter who happens to be female and says,
"Talking about my people."
She has a nice smile.
Yeah.
He was immediately attacked as a chauvinistic pig, as totally incorrect. How dare he? And it dominated. It was 10 minutes on CNN.
It was in the Oval Office. I saw it.
It was so nothing. It was so nothing. I mean, he's from an
being
era.
polite, and she's even recording it.
The other thing that happened was the story about the fake Time magazine news cover in, I guess, a half a dozen of the Trump golf clubs, golf courses. He has this picture, and it's photoshopped. It's not a real Time magazine cover. And they went on, look at this narcissist, look at this egotist, how dare he do this? Guess what? Trump has been on the cover of Time magazine legitimately 14 times. He could have used let's say 4 words.
How many times have you been on?
I've been on Newsweek, never time.
Okay.
For when my nose got broken. But I mean, he could have used for the story to have such import, when in fact he could have easily shown any one of those real covers, shows how much animosity there is.
Hatred.
How much even the slightest little wrinkle is immediately seized.
You paid a price because your network at the time, CBS, wouldn't let you report on many of the issues you were trying to report on involving President Obama. Do you agree with Geraldo, A, on the hatred, and explain what you mean, how it literally, what you talk about here, shady political operatives and fake news control what Americans are seeing, thinking, and how they're voting. That's profound.
I kind of dissect this process. How did we get to the point where the news could be influenced to such a degree? I worked at CNN in 1990 to 93, and I can tell you it wasn't the CNN that you've described today or that you've talked about. So how did we get here? And by taking apart decades of what I call the smear industry, which are propaganda firms, PR firms, LLCs, nonprofits, opposition research groups, which have grown into a huge industry, And they've understood how to get under the curtain at news organizations and say the right things, even get hired there, or write things that as reporters that will be printed in the press, even though these are simply paid-for partisan narratives. It's pretty disturbing. And one of the quotes I got from one of the smear operators I interviewed is, everything that you see, you should suspect has been put there for a reason. Every image and every narrative, someone wants you to see it and has spent a lot of money sometimes doing that.
Both of you agree what I'm saying about Zucker. And this is what I don't understand about Time Warner. And they've got shareholders. But they are allowing him to destroy their brand and advance what is clearly a personal agenda that he has against the president, right?
Well, I think that the forced resignation of the 3 journalists, and these were not light.
By the way, they used fake news. They said they resigned. Bull. They didn't resign.
They were forced resignations, which is not an uncommon.
Fake news to cover fake news. Great.
Well, rather than brand them as having been fired and therefore making the rest of their lives miserable.
You always find a way to be nice.
I just want to be nice. And also, I want to be nice to Zucker. What happened here, it seems to me, is they were so shocked by the victory of Donald Trump. It took everyone by such surprise that they never recovered their balance. They have some fine reporters, even in the White House team. Sean rolled his eyes. You missed it. He actually saw the whites of his eyes as he rolled his eyes.
Oh, you give me my secret.
But they have a personal agenda now. It's almost as if they have to have to show that they were right along and that he's an illegitimate president. I really think it's very lamentable.
As the campaign went so disastrously wrong for those who predicted Trump couldn't do it, by the way, I said I thought Trump was going to be president months and months before. You did too. Because some of us were listening to ordinary people and looking deeper into the polls and not just buying into what sounded like narratives. But the question was, after the election, would the media self-reflect and self-correct? And instead, I think they've doubled down, dug in their heels, and we've really done a disservice to ourselves.
And that's why this Russia thing has metastasized. It's going nowhere.
Boomeranging
they'll flog it, and they'll flog it, and they'll flog it until it bursts in the face.
The book is awesome. I love the cover, too.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, it's really nice. All right, congratulations. And coming up, the acting FBI director is in real hot water tonight. Circa News has put out an explosive new report about Andrew McCabe. Sarah Carter, Greg Jarrett weigh in. Also, we have a very important mini monologue tonight. We will expose the so-called conservative that works over at NBC, who is now competing to be the biggest Trump hater on that network. Here's a hint. He's now practically begging for a job from Jeff Zucker. And by the way, like he once begged for a job here at Fox News and Dr. Gorka, and much more tonight on this Breaking News Night. Welcome back to Hannity. Tonight, another explosive story about the acting FBI director, Andrew McCabe. Circa News tonight reporting the FBI chief, McCabe, now faces 3 separate federal inquiries into his behavior. Now, the report details allegations in McCabe's behavior that range from sexual discrimination, improper political activity, while McCabe was, in fact, a senior bureau executive. Joining us now with more from CircaNews.com, Sarah Carter, Fox News anchor, attorney Greg Jarrett. As I read through your daily revelations here, Sarah, I see an acting FBI director that's on a bubble and may not survive.
Yeah, Sean, I know there's a lot of concern right now with senior lawmakers. They are looking into this, and I'm sure they're going to be asking the Department of Justice to answer questions about these investigations and where these investigations are now. As just looking at the case on its face, I mean, not only was there Hatch Act violations, and we know there's a sexual discrimination suit still pending, but it was improper political campaign donations that they're looking at as well that were connected to Hillary Clinton.
This, to me, seems to be the biggest problem. I mean, we don't know about the sexual allegation, harassment allegation that will be adjudicated, but $700,000, his wife's in a race, he's involved in the Russia probe, and he's getting them, and his wife's getting the money from who? The Clintons' best friend, in part.
That's right. That's right. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, who at the time, remember, was also under investigation for his own campaign contributions. And that, I mean, and that just kind of disappeared and went to the wayside. So there's a lot of questions here. There's a lot of conflicts of interest, a lot of political things happening on the backside that we don't know about. But I know, speaking to senior lawmakers, that they want answers to this and they want someone to look into it. And that would be the Department of Justice.
But if you look at everybody here. You got the Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, and his relationship with Comey and the Mueller appointment is bad. Comey's got issues with the Records Act, as you have been reporting. And then Mueller is hiring Hillary Clinton's attorney and all these attorneys that donated, seriously, to Obama and Hillary. And he's got to get out.
You can't make this up.
You can't make this up.
I mean, this stinks as bad as a sick oyster at low tide. I mean, the stench of this is just awful.
Did you grow up on the water?
And, you know, it all emanates from Hillary Clinton. She's like Pigpen in the comic strip Peanuts. Wherever she goes, whatever she does or says, she is engulfed in a cloud of dirt and scandal. And McCabe is the latest cloud of dirt. I mean, here he is overseeing the investigation into her multiple violations of the Espionage Act, while at the same time, his wife is getting $675,000, truckloads of money.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Money man.
Okay, so Comey is in trouble. We'll see where that goes. Lynch is in bigger trouble with obstruction of justice. Obama now has to go under oath and answer questions. Why didn't you do anything if you knew that there was meddling by Russia in August? Then you got Mueller. He has to go. But I say at the end of the day, the person that still has the most legal trouble, that's the Uranium One deal, Russia kickbacks, pay to play, and we know she mishandled classified, top secret, special access program information and destroyed it. Those are felonies.
Right.
I still think Hillary will be indicted.
These are all reasons why they need to reopen the investigation into Hillary Clinton and the Espionage Act, fresh eyes, re-examine the evidence. I mean, Comey himself laid out persuasive evidence of how she violated the law, and then in the same breath said, well, no reasonable prosecutor would ever bring that case. My goodness, you know, prosecutors everywhere would have been happy to bring such a strong
100%.
case.
Yeah,
100%.
You know, I'll go back to you. I keep talking about the boomerang effect. Are you confident, Sarah, as I am, Russia-Trump collusion, if there was anything, it's over now? I don't see anything coming out. They've been delving into this, and even the special counsel has now moved on to other issues, which is indicative that it's gone. But do you agree that Comey's got issues? Obama now has to go under oath. Lynch obstruction issues. The Flynn case is still out there. Mueller's got conflict of interest issues. And then Hillary. Is there anything else? I see it all now going against the tide for the Democrats, and it's all come back to them.
Yes, and to date, there is absolutely no evidence that there was any collusion with Russia with anyone in the Trump administration. And you're pointing out something that's very true, Sean. The pendulum is swung the other way, right? So the pendulum is swung the other way, and I don't think that we're going to stop writing these stories. We see more and more information pouring out from sources. I think people feel emboldened now to tell the truth about what was going on. So it doesn't just stop here, and I think we'll be hearing from the Senate very soon when it comes to McCabe. And it wouldn't surprise me within the next few weeks if something changes on his part and his role, because what we've seen is that
is anybody in the race with McCabe's wife ever get $700,000 for that local race? I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, that had to set a record.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
It did. The average, actually, Sean, the average for a state Senate race is about $50,000 to $60,000.
Oh, Terry McAuliffe stepping up for his good friend the Clintons. No conflict of interest, though, that he's running and involved in the Russia probe. None at all. None whatsoever. All right, this is only the beginning. Greg, good to see you. Sarah, great work as always. You guys are killing it. And coming up next on this busy breaking news edition tonight of Hannity.
Did Donald Trump be the end of CNN? What a legacy that would be.
All right, Rush Limbaugh letting it loose and questioning if President Trump now is the one that takes down CNN. Also, his hilarious analysis of the destroyed Trump media. The Five's Kimberly Guilfoyle is next. Of course, also joining us, recording artist Kaya Jones. And later, Dr. Sebastian Gorka will weigh in on Obama's Russia problem. The former president knew about the election meddling. He did nothing. Does he need to be put under oath? Also tonight, we expose the so-called Republican who's now trying to become the biggest liberal on cable TV. Straight ahead. Welcome back to Hannity. So it's safe to say CNN is having this major credibility crisis. By the way, our friend Rush Limbaugh is asking if President Trump could be the end of America's premier fake news network. Watch this.
Could Donald Trump be the end of CNN? What a legacy that would be. This Jim Acosta guy, little Jim Acosta, CNN. The guy that lost his cookies yesterday with the press briefing when the cameras weren't turned on. I'll tell you, we got the audio coming up. I'll tell you how this guy reminds me of. Have you ever had a cat, pet cat, and get one of these red laser pointers, and you point it at the floor, and a cat tries to catch it, and you point it up against the sofa, cat runs into the sofa, trying to put it up against the wall, cat runs in. I think that's what the Trump administration is doing with many in the media.
All right, here now with reaction, recording artist Kaya Jones, the co-host of The Five, Kimberly Guilfoyle. All right, Kaya, your first appearance. I mean, I know Rush is funny, but when you really think about it, Donald Trump saying fake news, fake news, fake news, and they keep falling right into the trap. I think he's right.
He's 100% right. At this point, it's messing up actual factual input of what's going on in the country and what's going on in the world. I mean, they're literally using press briefings to drum up fake stories at this point. It's horrible.
Yeah. KG, I mean, it's almost like every night this show writes itself because they keep pushing lies.
Right, and you know what? And the American people are wise to it. They understand what's going on, and they're sick of it because they're smarter than the mainstream media and the liberals and the press are giving them credit for. They see what's going on, which is a concerted effort to try to delegitimize this president of the United States. They are publishing stories that have no business being on air or in print, that are anonymous sources, that are debunked very quickly. There's a lot of reputational smear going around, and also they're trying to stop this president from putting forward the agenda that he was elected to do by the American people, the working men and women that have been left behind, and that's who he's looking out for.
That's who I care about. That's what the election was about. All right, Kaya, here's my question for you, though, because you come from this entertainment background, and then all of a sudden I just noticed through a lot of my friends and people sending me notes on social media that you have emerged as this very outspoken Trump supporter. And and I've seen some of your videos, and they're very entertaining, and they're also hard-hitting. But you also get the other side. You get what KG and I get, too, right? You're getting the hate mail.
Oh, yeah. But I also get, I'm 12 or 13 LGBT conservative. Thank you for making me feel like I'm not alone. And when you get emails like that, it has to happen where we start to actually come out and support our president and support our nation and try to unite, because what's going on is complete division, and they're posing fake news and dividing this nation by doing that. And it's horrible what they've done to Trump and to Melania, the entire presidential family. It's horrible.
Yeah. KG?
Yeah, she's right. And there isn't really the respect that you've seen for the Oval, for the First Family, for the First Lady, and for their beautiful son that you saw, and the respect given and afforded to Barack and Michelle Obama,
Not even close,
Sasha and
KG.
Malia. And I'm just asking for them to give this family, give this presidency and the vote of the American people a chance to succeed and move forward on health care, on tax reform, on immigration, on national security. We're hurting as a country. And how about jobs?
Ivanka and Melania and, you know, Lara and all these women, the Trump women, get attacked. Where's Hillary? Where's Pelosi? Where's Feinstein? They never open their mouth.
Well, that's the problem. It's a total disconnect and a blatant hypocrisy. You don't see any of the female senators on the left standing up for them and saying, don't disrespect these women, treat them with respect that they should be, you know, afforded. That's what really bothers me, especially these are strong, successful women that are, by the way, could be doing a lot of other things, and they're trying to do something for this country.
Kyle, we'll give you the last word on that.
Yeah, I really think that right now we need to be more united, and we are divided right now, and the fake news has to stop.
How about
CNN
they
is
stand
about
up for
to be
women
done.
being attacked unfairly? How about
the fact that Melania has not been on the cover of Vogue and the cover of Vanity Fair and been respected as she is absolutely stunning.
Lucky
to have the thing said about Ivanka, really? Pretty
it's
sickening.
horrible. They've attacked her brand.
Yeah, we know them personally. They're lovely people,
They're great
intelligent,
people. Really are.
compassionate.
And they deserve better.
They absolutely do. We're lucky to have them. They should be treated that way.
All right, guys, good to see you. Kaya, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us. And coming up, President Obama, he knew about Russian meddling back in August of 2016, did nothing because he thought Hillary was going to win. Should we be investigating that? The answer is yes. We'll ask Dr. Gorka. And also, we have a very important mini monologue about a host over at NBC News who used to say he was a Republican, one of the most hinged leftist liberals in the country in his anti-Trump rants and hate. We'll explain. Welcome back to Hannity. So, according to a recent report, President Obama knew since August of 2016 that Russia was trying to influence, meddle in our presidential election. He did nothing about it. Now, the reason is he thought Hillary Clinton would, in fact, win, that it was in the bag. And now Donald Trump wins the White House. Democrats, all of a sudden they're crying foul, and they've been pushing now for 11 months. Trump, Russia, collusion, a phony narrative ever since. Now, last night on this program, we showed you a clip of President Obama from October saying that the American election system couldn't be rigged. Really? But that was when he thought Hillary was going to win. Watch.
Every expert, regardless of political party, regardless of ideology, conservative or liberal, who has ever examined these issues in a serious way will tell you that instances of significant voter fraud are